The Pentagon's internal watchdog has determined Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth jeopardized sensitive military information and could have endangered American service members when he shared certain details about U.S. military operations in Yemen in a private Signal group chat earlier this year. This is according to a U.S. official and a person familiar with the report's findings. The report found the defense secretary violated Defense Department policies when he used his personal device for official business to transmit sensitive U.S. military information to other top Trump officials and the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine. That person was unknowingly on that thread, unknowing to the defense secretary. Sources say the report does not address the question of whether Hegseth declassified the information before it was posted in that Signal group chat. The House and Senate Armed Services Committee have received the report. The current version is classified. The redacted version is expected to be made public as early as tomorrow. CBS News Pentagon reporter Eleanor Watson joins us now. So, Eleanor, what more can you tell us about the report based on what sources are telling you?
Yeah, well, Lindsay, sources tell us that the report found that Hegseth did potentially endanger troops and the mission against the Houthis in Yemen in March when he shared these sensitive details over Signal. That's according to a source familiar and a U.S. official. If you remember, during the March Signal messages, the Pentagon was conducting a campaign against the Houthis in Yemen that ended up being Operation Rough Rider, with strikes against the Houthis for over 50 days. In that group chat that unknowingly had Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg on it, Hegseth shared details about the platforms, the timing, when these strikes were going to happen. And the IG found, according to our sources, that could have endangered troops and risked the mission. Now, the classified version was delivered to Congress, the Hill, earlier this week, and an unredacted version for public release is expected tomorrow. The secretary, from the get-go, has said he did not share war plans over Signal, but what this IG found is that the details in those messages, at the very least, risked endangering troops.
Okay, I want to get back to Hegseth in a second, but the person who inadvertently added Goldberg to the message was, at the time, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, right? He's now the UN ambassador. Will this report address that part at all?
As far as we know, the investigation scope was about the secretary's use of commercial apps like Signal. What we may find in the unredacted version tomorrow is more than just the messages that were posted by The Atlantic. But what we learned in March about the messages is that Hegseth was the one who shared sensitive details, even though Mike Waltz was the one who inadvertently added him to the messages. One other thing, Lindsay, I want to note about what the sources tell us the report says is that the details that Hegseth shared in Signal were transmitted to him, shared with him by U.S. Central Command, which is the combatant command overseeing those operations against the Houthis. And the report, according to our sources, did find that U.S. Central Command shared those details with the appropriate secret, no foreign classification before they were shared in that group chat.
Okay, let's talk about whether these details were classified or not prior to the defense secretary sharing it. What do we know about that, and why is that piece of the puzzle significant?
Well, Lindsay, as I said, the Central Command commander shared those details, marked secret, no foreign. So that's classified information. That is, if it gets out, could cause damage to the mission and endangered troops. What the IG, according to our sources, did not release a definitive conclusion on is whether or not Hegseth, as the declassification authority, declassified those details before they were shared in the chat.
What else has stuck out to you about what you're reporting right now?
Well, I think going back to March, there has been a denial that these messages were sensitive when they were first released, were very clearly timing, type of platforms, details like this are not shared even after missions. So the fact that they were shared during the missions was striking at the time. And it's been interesting to watch the Pentagon kind of try to push this narrative away that nobody was texting war plans.
What happens next here? Is there any accountability structure here for the defense secretary if this review did in fact find, as you're reporting, that he violated rules and regulations of the Defense Department?
Well, Lindsay, we'll see tomorrow when the full report is released to the public what the IG recommends. But from what we know so far, the recommendations are that there definitely needs to be more training. There's already training about what is appropriate to communicate, but more training on when to use commercial apps and when to use personal phones. As far as Secretary Hegseth, the scrutiny of him over sharing these messages on Signal is unlikely to die down when this report is released tomorrow.
I also want to ask you real quick before we let you go, remind people the nature of this Signal app. It doesn't have the encryption. It's not the proper channels. Just remind people why this was such a big deal at the time.
The military has a way to communicate sensitive details, a specific network where they're supposed to communicate classified information, and information is not supposed to be taken out of that. Signal is on your phone, it's on personal phones, and so in this instance, communicating classified information like this not on the appropriate network was what raised concerns from the get-go.
And in the past, have administration officials been targets of foreign adversaries? Is it easier for them to potentially intercept messages when they're sent on an app like this?
I would not doubt that in the past ffficials have been targeted by adversaries. I do not know, Lindsay, of a specific instance where anything has come out or whether it's necessarily easier, but it's definitely easier than the classified network that the Pentagon is required to use.
Okay, Eleanor Watson, we really appreciate you jumping in front of camera on this breaking news that you and our colleagues have broken. Thank you so much. Just to reiterate to everybody, the Pentagon's internal watchdog determining that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth jeopardized sensitive military information and could have endangered American service members when he shared details about this U.S. strike in Yemen in his private Signal group chat earlier this year. Looks like the public is going to get their hands on a redacted version tomorrow, but we'll continue to follow the story.